I wanted to take a moment and thank my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all the support. If you like this video, then go ahead and click like or subscribe. I really appreciate it if you subscribe. It helps the algorithm. It helps people find the channel, and it is most definitely very much appreciated. It helps motivate me to make more videos like it, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Inn. I'm your innkeeper, and today we'll be discussing the subclasses in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Today's video will focus on the Paladin. This video series is my first impressions on the subclasses within the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything book. They are not an in-depth analysis, and of course my opinions can change over time depending on how the subclasses perform in practice. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about the Oath of Glory Paladin first. So at 3rd, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th level, you get additional spells added to your spell list. Most of them are buffs and utility and mobility spells. The standouts here are Guiding Bolts, Enhance Ability, Haste, and Freedom of Movement. At 3rd level, you also gain a couple of options for your Channel Divinity. The first Channel Divinity option is called Peerless Athlete. For 10 minutes, you can get advantage on athletics checks and acrobatics checks. You can also push and pull and drag and lift twice as much as you normally could. And then your jumping speed, your long jump and high jump, increase by 10 feet. So, especially at lower levels, I can totally see this coming in handy in a variety of situations. It's not super powerful, but you do have another Channel Divinity option. So it's nice that you have a circumstantial one that you can use when you need it. And it's not a waste of your Channel Divinity if you never get to use it, because you do have that other one that is useful in more situations. And that one is called Inspiring Smite. When you use your Smite on a creature, you can use your bonus action and give temporary hit points to creatures within 30 feet that you choose. So I really like this. You can distribute the temporary hit points as you wish. So if you want to give one creature 3 temporary hit points and another one 10, that's awesome that you have that option. I like abilities, especially healing abilities, that let you distribute the healing, because it's not always equal. There's not always going to be party members that are equally damaged. There's always going to be someone that's hurt more, and you're going to want to help them out a little bit more. And it's nice that you can, maneuver that and choose how much you want to give to each individual person. So that's really cool. At 7th level, you get your aura, and this one's called Aura of Alacrity. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet, and any ally that starts their turn within 5 feet of you also has their speed increased by 10 feet. At 18th level, it goes up to a 10-foot aura radius. This one, I think, would have been awesome. The thing is, that range, that 5-foot range, it's terrible. It's really, really terrible. I see what they were going for. It's like, this one is from the Theros book, is where this subclass initially was released. And I get that they're going for that Greek, phalanx that's moving all together in formation, so you stick together. But come on, limiting the aura to 5 feet is pretty useless. There's not that many situations where you're going to have an ally start within 5 feet of you. And if they do, chances are you're not going to want to be moving when that's the case. If you're moving, chances are your allies are not going to start within 5 feet of you. Let's just be honest. Or even 10 feet when it goes up at 18th level to 10 feet. So unfortunately, this ability is actually kind of useless as an aura. They might as well have just said your speed increases by 10 feet, which is nice, but it's not game breaking, especially not at 7th level. Very, very disappointing. At 15th level, you have the ability called Glorious Defense. So when you or an ally within 10 feet is hit with an attack, you can use a reaction and add a bonus to the AC if the attack hits. And then if the attack misses, you get a free attack against the creature. So again, this one would be really, really cool, except that the limitation, you have to have been hit with an attack. You can't just use your reaction to boost their AC and then make an attack. Literally, the creature has to have hit your ally, then you boost their AC, and then if that boost makes the attack miss, then you can get an extra attack. that's so limiting. I mean, at 15th level, you're going to be fighting creatures with like a hit bonus of like plus 14. So if they hit your ally, chances are the boost to AC that you're giving them is not going to cause the attack to miss, which means you're not going to get the extra attack from it. So this ability, I think, is really, really limiting. And the counterattack, I mean, portion of it, which would be really neat if it would just be like you counterattack when you use this ability. But unfortunately, it's very unreliable because two situations have to be met. That first attack has to have hit, and then you using this ability has to have caused that attack to instead miss, for then you to be able to do this reaction attack. It's just way too limited. I'm sorry. Here's the other thing. This ability has a limited number of uses per day, so I don't see why they had to limit it this much. They could have made it so you get the attack no matter what. And you have limited uses per day. What's the big deal? Just a terrible design. So your capstone at level 20 is called Living Legend. You can use a bonus action and then gain a few benefits for a minute. So you get advantage on all charisma checks, and once per turn, if you miss with a weapon attack, instead you hit with the weapon attack. That's really, really strong. And also, on top of that, as if that wasn't strong enough, if you fail saving throw, you can use your reaction to re-roll it. You have to use a new roll, but hey, if you fail a saving throw, it's fine that you get another chance at it. You can use this once per long rest, but it lasts a minute, and then you can spend a 5th level slot if you want to use it again. So that's nice that you have that ability. I like that option. The ability itself is really, really good. It's just too bad that you get it at 20th level. You're never going to see this ability unless you happen to either go play a game that lasts a really long time, a campaign that lasts a long time and gets you to 20th level, or you play a level 21 shot. The chances of that are very, very slim. Chances are you're never going to see this ability, and it's really, in my opinion, the only real good ability that this subclass gets, and it gets it at 20th level. Honestly, I think I would have rated this subclass low tier or bottom tier. The only thing that's keeping it from being in the bottom tier are its spells that it gets, its bonus spells, especially the haste spell. That one is such a major boost for a paladin that I couldn't possibly rank this a low tier subclass when it gets access to that spell. The level 20 ability factors 0 into my ranking of this subclass because, again, you're never going to see that ability. So only the haste spell and maybe a couple other spells that are okay kept this subclass from being in the bottom tier. All right, the next subclass that we're going to discuss is called the Oath of Watchers. At 3rd level, you have a few bonus spells. So most of these spells revolve around enhancing your senses, and most of them come from the schools of abjuration and divination. The standouts are See Invisibility and Banishment. Otherwise, the spells are really, really bad. And even See Invisibility and Banishment aren't super great, let's be honest, for a paladin. I don't normally go into a ton of details in my first impression videos regarding the spells, but I think it's important to point out why this is one of the worst paladin subclasses for spells. At 3rd level, you get the Alarm and Detect Magic. Both are great spells for wizards, but they're great because they're both rituals, and you can cast them as much as you want without using a spell slot. As a paladin, you're not a ritual caster, and you're in fact a half caster. So you have far fewer spell slots, and you can't cast these as a ritual. So these circumstantial spells become a big hindrance if you happen to use up a spell slot on it. I just don't foresee too many paladins using up their slots that they could be using for smites on these two spells. Then at 9th level, you get Counterspell and Non-Detection. Non-Detection is okay, but Counterspell, it's just not a good spell for any class that's not a full caster. Mostly it's because you're going to be behind. So the way Counterspell works, if you're trying to counter a spell that's a higher spell level, you have to make an ability check. And that's the double whammy here. Chances are the spell you're trying to counter is going to be higher level because you're a half caster. You're behind everybody else. Not just that, but then this ability check, a paladin is so multi-ability dependent, you got to focus on strength or dex, con, and wisdom. So 3 different ability scores, the chances of you having maximized your spellcasting ability are pretty slim. So your chances of a counterspell going off and succeeding are much lower than a full caster. So not a good spell for a half caster to get. And then at 17th level, you get Hold Monster. And at this level, with your lower spellcasting ability than other full casters have, I wouldn't expect to get much out of this spell either. So all the other spells that I didn't mention right now that you get as bonus spells are either subpar, situational, or mediocre at best. Other than Banishment, there's no real top tier spells. And even then, Banishment for a half caster is not going to be that great. Worse yet, that none of the spells on the list are bonus action spells, which means your action economy is going to suffer a little bit. The only reaction spell that you get is Counterspell, and you're not going to cast that very often. So really, really terrible spell selection, bonus spells for this. It's good that Paladins already have a lot of bonus action spells on their normal spell list, so at least you have that going for you, but man, it's just bad. At 3rd level, you get a few Channel Divinity options in this subclass. The first one's called Watcher's Will. As an action and for a 1 minute duration, you and a creature you choose within 30 feet have advantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. That is so good. Basically getting advantage on 3 saving throws that could potentially take you out of a combat if you fail them is a huge benefit. This one is a top tier Channel Divinity. You also get the other option for Channel Divinity is Abjure the Extraplanar. So you can turn Aberration, Celestial, Elemental, Fae, or Fiends within 30 feet that can hear you. This one is decent. It's not really common to see an ability that can turn Aberration, so that's really nice. But, I think at higher levels it'll come in a little bit more handy than at lower levels. I think both Channel Divinity options are really good, and some of the best ones for Paladin so far. So I think this is redeeming this subclass. What started off really bad with the spell selection is getting redeemed with some of these abilities. Let's see where this takes us further. At 7th level, you have the Aura of the Sentinel. So basically, this one gets you a bonus on initiative rolls, which is a huge and welcomed effect. And even though it's not that large because it's your proficiency bonus, it's still something that stacks with other bonuses. So something like the Alertness feat will stack with this. The 10-foot range is good enough. And at 18th level, it goes up to 30 feet. So that's amazing. And then at 15th level, you get the Vigilant Rebuke feature. When a creature within 30 feet succeeds on an Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma saving throw, you can use your reaction to deal damage to the creature that caused the save. This ability is really good. I love abilities that use your reaction. I've mentioned them before in the fighter video. This greatly increases your action economy, especially for the melee classes that are generally have very few abilities that use their reaction, so it's nice to get a boost to your action economy by giving you options for your reaction. This ability feels like great design because it synergizes well with the Channel Divinity that you get at 3rd level. And here's something that's really interesting. It has no apparent range limit other than the creature that made the saving throw. So the creature that made the saving throw has to be within 30 feet. But it doesn't say that the creature that caused that saving throw to occur has to be within any particular range. So literally an evil wizard can be 300 feet away, cast a spell on an ally, and if that ally succeeds Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma save, you can deal damage to that wizard that's 300 feet away. How awesome is that? Not just that, but they don't get a saving throw. You don't have to make an attack roll. It's instant damage. This is so big. This can literally turn the tide, end a concentration on a spell that they're using. I mean, so good. Such a really, really amazing ability. So far, this subclass is more than redeeming itself. And then finally, at 20th level, you get the Immortal Bulwark ability. So once per long rest, you can use a bonus action, and you get benefits for a minute. So you get True Sight with a range of 120 feet. That's awesome, especially at high levels. You have advantage on attacks against Aberration, Celestial, Elemental, Fiend, and Fae. And when you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can banish them if they fail a Charisma saving throw. Again, another standout level 20 ability. You're not going to see it very often. Take a shot. But, it is really good, and it's something that you'd probably look forward to as your capstone. So overall, the Oath of the Watchers is actually a very good Paladin options for players that like to optimize. The abilities that the subclass gets are all really good to top tier. The only thing that drags it down a little bit is that the oath spells are some of the worst oath spells for paladins. Now, I understand most paladin players don't cast a whole lot of spells. They save those spell slots for smites, and I get that. But it's still nice to have some good spells, and I think if a spell is a standout, you would give up a smite for it. If you can cast haste, I guarantee you'll be casting that every combat and not just saving it for a smite. Misty Step is another good one. There are so many. Spiritual Weapon is one that some of them get. I mean, here, let's take a look at the list of some of the Paladin Oaths and the spells that they get so that you can see just how bad the spell list for this one is. Oath of Glory gets haste. Oath of Ancients gets Misty Step. Oath of Vengeance gets Hunter's Mark, Haste, and Misty Step. Oath of the Crown, which is generally seen as a very bad subclass, gets Spirit Guardians, which brings that subclass to the mid-tier for me. Oath of Conquest gets Armor of Agathis and Spiritual Weapon. Fantastic. Even Oath of Redemption gets a couple of good ones with Hypnotic Pattern and Wall of Force. I mean, one good spell could have bumped this class to top tier. It's unfortunate, but it is pretty impactful, and I do place a lot of weight on the fact that it just doesn't get any really good spells. So let's go ahead and give you my final thoughts on the subclasses for Paladin in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The Oath of Glory, it's boring, it's mediocre. It has one or two decent abilities and a couple of good spell options. It has haste, so that's nice, but other than that, the theme of the subclass is very interesting. I really like the idea of the Oath of Glory. And there's so many places that they could have taken it, but as written, it honestly just feels like a big missed opportunity for me. The Oath of the Watchers is a subclass that could have been top tier with nothing but great abilities throughout all of its levels. The spell list, though, is just so subpar that I could not, in good conscience, put this in the top tier. So it's basically just boils down to the spells being either very, very circumstantial or just straight up mediocre. It's too bad. This one has such good abilities. I'll tell you what, if you find your playstyle to be, for Paladin, to be one where you never, ever, ever cast spells, then I think this subclass is probably top tier for you. But I think the average person will cast a spell here and there as a Paladin, and it sucks that you don't have a good set of bonus spells. So it's just too bad. If you never cast spells, this one's probably top tier for you. So flavor-wise, it's very thematic, and its tenets are interesting in that they evoke kind of a stalwart defender who's constantly trying to keep things from other worlds from affecting influence over our world. I like the idea of that. So thematically, it's cool. Abilities are really cool. Just the spells. That's the only thing. All right, so down to my rankings of the subclasses. Quick note, these rankings are based on rankings within subclasses of the same class. So I'm not comparing them to the wizard subclasses or the paladin or the bard subclasses. These are top, middle, or low tier when compared to other paladin subclasses. So here we have on the bottom tier, unfortunately, the Oath of Glory. Some of you might disagree with me on this, and that's totally fine. But for me, it's bottom tier. Mid tier, I have the Oath of the Watchers. And top tier, none. Oath of the Watchers, if you never cast spells as a paladin when you play, then I would say Oath of the Watchers is probably top tier. But other than that, none. So that's it for my first impressions of the Paladin subclasses within Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I do hope that you found this video helpful. And if you did, please consider clicking the like button. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down there in the comments down below. As always, I am your Innkeeper, and this is the Twisted Tentacle Inn. Check in anytime. I'll talk with you then. Anyways, at least Paladins do have some other good spells within their list. Right. Anyways, The dog interrupted me. But anyways,